Back now to that breaking news. Moderna announcing it has formally requested FDA emergency approval for its COVID vaccine. Right now, I'm joined by Tal Zaks, Chief Medical Officer for Moderna. Thank you so much for being with us. The obvious question for people who don't understand the approval process or timelines, what does this mean today for the average American who wants to get this vaccine?
Well, what it means in the first instance is now we have the final proof as it relates to the primary analysis of this trial, that indeed our vaccine is highly effective in preventing COVID-19 disease. And in fact, even more so when you look at the severe cases, we had, unfortunately, 30 cases of severe disease in the placebo arm, but not a single individual who got vaccinated with the mRNA vaccine developed severe disease. Now, the next steps are we've applied for emergency use authorization by FDA in the U.S., in parallel for marketing authorizations globally. And the next steps is to have that public dialogue with the FDA expert panel. We hope and anticipate that the date for that is likely a couple weeks away, around December 17th. And once the public has a chance to see the totality of the data in an open debate with the expert panel, I'm optimistic that FDA will approve this. And shortly thereafter, with CDC recommendations, we can start to see the deployment of this vaccine to the U.S. population.
Shortly thereafter, meaning days, weeks, and at what point does sort of your control end? And what point does state and federal governments pick up in terms of obviously the distribution and actually getting the vaccines to the hospitals or doctors' offices or wherever they're going to be administered?
So that's a great question. And as you rightly point out, ultimately, this is going to be the responsible of the federal government and the state jurisdictions as far as deployment. Once there is marketing authorization, we stand ready to distribute our vaccine to those centers as we will be instructed to by the CDC. And beyond that, it's going to be the responsibility of those local health authorities to actually ensure the administration. Our responsibility does not end there. Of course, we continue to monitor vigilantly for safety, adverse events, both on the ongoing trial and in the population as the vaccine gets deployed. But I'm confident that the profile that we've established so far warrants the deployment of this vaccine, and I'm confident that it will start to turn the pandemic around.
We know it's going to take time to get the vaccines to everybody who wants them and needs them. Everybody needs them. But knowing what you know now, when do you see what is the percentage of the U.S. population being vaccinated where there's sort of a return to normal, if there is such a thing anymore? And at what date, around what date or what season even, might we reach that point? Is it 40, 50, 60, 70% of the population vaccinated?
So the truth is, I don't know. I expect it will require a significant proportion. But look, we're going to be monitoring like we have been for cases and for transmission. So as more and more of the population hopefully gets vaccinated in the coming months, we should start to see transmission rates subside. It's not going to be a, overnight happening. It's not going to be that we wake up one Sunday night and the next morning everybody gets vaccinated and by Tuesday this thing is gone. It will take weeks and months, but I'm confident that if indeed we can effectively deploy this vaccine, we've now seen the level of effectiveness that it had in the phase 3 clinical trial. That trial was representative of the population, of the people who need it, of the people who are at risk. So I have full expectations that those results will be capitulated in the public at large. And so I anticipate that if on plan people get vaccinated in the coming months, by springtime, I'm hopeful that the majority of this pandemic will have receded from our shores.
I want to give you a minute to do a little deeper dive on the whole safety issue, because I was talking to Dr. Osterholm, who's one of the members of President-elect Biden's advisory board on COVID-19, and he reiterated what we've heard from members of the task force right now. A lot of our medical experts is this concern about people being nervous about getting this vaccine, particularly people of color, the elderly, and of course there are people who are skeptical of the medical community anyway. Talk to us about safety, about the makeup of this group of folks, was it 30,000 who are part of this study? And what can you say to assure people that if this gets approval, it hasn't been rushed?
Thank you, Chris. I think that's an excellent question. So let me be clear. If you look at the makeup of this trial, it is representative of our population. We had about 2/3 that are over the age of 45, a quarter that are over the age of 65. We had 8,000 people living with chronic comorbid conditions of diabetes, heart disease, lung disease, severe obesity, things that put them at risk for this illness. We've had a good representation of minorities. There's 20% of Hispanic or Latinx. There's 10% of African Americans or Blacks. There's additional minorities represented. And if you look at the mix of cases on the trial, that as well is reflective of what we're trying to prevent here. We had 30 cases that were severe. These cases occurred also in the elderly. We've had a good representation of the elderly, those minorities, and people with chronic conditions in the case mix that we see. So when we see the final results, it will become evident that this consistency of effect of a high estimate for prevention of disease is seen across all those subgroups that we're all concerned about. Now, as far as public confidence, that's where, our job is to be transparent with our data. I think we've set the bar for transparency. We're the first out there to report our phase 3 protocol, and everybody else quickly followed suit. We reported the trial and we reported the mix of the trial participations. We've been very clear with our data, not just the efficacy, but also the safety. And our understanding of the safety continues to evolve, but thus far we've not seen a significant reason for concern as far as safety. On the reactogenicity profile, we've been quite clear. This vaccine can, especially after the first dose, cause some flu-like symptoms. These are inconvenient, they're anticipated, they're expected, and they subside within a few days. They're mostly fatigue, muscle aches, and headache, but they go away on their own. And I think that is commensurate with a very high level of an immune response that we induce, and indeed what we now see to be a very effective vaccine to prevent disease. So, as in all medicine, it's a question of the benefit risk. And when you do the math of such a highly efficacious vaccine deployed to the population, I think the benefit we expect is very, very significant. The discomfort as it relates to reactogenicity, I'm not trying to minimize it. I just think that it's certainly worth it. And I can't wait for myself and my family to actually be able to get vaccinated.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.